Hello all, Matt here. So we're working on this brand new album, Most of What We Do Is Sleep. We have a brand new single coming out tomorrow, and I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how this song came together. And we're going to try to do this a little bit more with this album because we think it's a good way to kind of show our young listeners the process and maybe inspire them to make music on their own. So our new song is called Lullaby for an Insomniac. It basically has two parts to it. The verses are kind of like a gentle lullaby talking about having a hard time falling asleep.
Sometimes it's hard to get to sleep when you hit the hay.
And then the verses, it slams into this kind of funny novelty part that gives some ridiculous advice on how one might try to fall asleep by making mental lists.
I make a mental list of all the countries alphabetically. I try to rearrange my bedroom layout telekinetically.
So that's the gist of the song. A couple of influences for this song. I've been listening to a lot of the novelty musician Tom Lehrer, who has songs like this.
Counting sheep when you're trying to sleep, being fair. When there's something to share, being neat. When you're folding a sheet, that's mathematics when a ball.
So you'll hear some of that influence in the choruses. And then I've also was thinking about the song Mr. Popeil by Weird Al Yankovic, which sounds a little bit like this.
I need a handy appliance that'll scramble an egg while it's still inside its shell. Help me, Mr. Popeil!
Kind of has that manic salesman with the female assistants, which we kind of worked into our song a little bit as well.
To regain your slumber, call this toll-free number. We're waiting on the line.
A final influence was I was talking to the excellent Trevor Walls of the Zing Zangs and of the Goober Hour, kind of an institution in and of himself in the children's music and comedy worlds. And we had an interview with him, and he said this.
I studied at the Second City a lot, and that's where I really crafted my comedy stuff. And I had a great coach who once told me that the traditional comedy song that always works on a comedy level is a verse that describes what's happening, but you haven't heard the punchline yet. And then the chorus is the punchline, like truly just like throwing them off guard with the verse. And then, oh, that's what the song's about. That's apparently, I'm just passing it forward. Apparently that is the structure of a true comedy song. And I know Weird Al does that a lot as well.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, I have to look for this on album 4 now. Matt's gonna take-
So with those things in mind, I set about working on this song. Now, musically, it took a little bit of a while to develop. I have a couple of voice notes here to show how things were starting out. You'll hear me kind of struggling between the melody and the chords and trying to come up with like a nice feel for the two different parts.
I make a mental list of streets that I can think of and to think of in Toronto. Sometimes it's hard to fall asleep when you get through the day. 'Cause I've got my own solution that works every time for me. I make a mental list of all the countries alphabetically. Barely even 5 o'clock when I drift off to sleep.
And then I finally landed on a chord progression. I had this sort of bossa nova. I have this little bossa nova chord progression that I've been playing with. It goes a little bit like this. So I took that chord progression and I put it on the piano and ended up with something. I changed the time signature and ended up with something that sounds like this. So was where the verses came from. The first voice note that kind of sounds along those lines was this one.
Sometimes it's hard to get to sleep when you hit the hay.
And then one cold November Saturday afternoon, I went up into our little studio and started putting together a demo.
Some people, they try counting sheep. That's a bit cliche.
He don't want no lullabies, warm cups of milk, and no chamomile tea.
I had recently discovered an instrument that I've mentioned in a recent video called the stylophone, and I thought it would fit perfectly in this song, so I added a little bit of that, just to kind of give it a bit of a kind of a spacey feel, taking a little bit from David Bowie there. And that's how the song came together. Then we wrote some lyrics. We went into the studio. It was a bit of a family affair. My brother-in-law, James, played the drums. My father-in-law, Neil, or Kirsten's dad, Neil, played the upright bass. And Kirsten and I laid down the vocals, and I played some piano. I played a little bit of percussion instruments, some triangle, and actually found a piece of metal that I just clanged on for this part right here.
I'm soundly off to sleep, ha-ha.
And then we had the song. Our sound engineer, Zach, from Skytrack Studios, put everything together, and we hope you enjoy it. This is Lullaby for an Insomniac by the Relative Minors.
Sometimes it's hard to get to sleep when you hit the hay. Some people, they try counting sheep. That's a bit cliche.
He don't want no lullabies, warm cups of milk, and no chamomile tea. Whenever he suffers from sleeplessness, this is his go-to remedy.
I make a mental list of all the countries alphabetically. I try to rearrange my bedroom layout telekinetically. I pile up all my books into a pyramid-shaped heap, and by the time it's 3 a.m., I'm soundly off to sleep, ha-ha.
Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Andorra, Angola, Antigua and Barbuda, Argentina.
The end of the day has finally come, giving way tonight. Climb into your bed, my sleepy ones, and put out the light. But if you discover that you or your brother can only toss and turn, there's no need for guessing, 'cause here is the lesson that both of you must learn.
Just make a mental list of streets that you can think of in Toronto. Recite Shakespeare's soliloquies in fluent Esperanto. Multiply 16 by 9 and every other number, and by the time it's 4 a.m. you'll drift off into slumber. Yeah.
Ciu esti au ne esti, tiel staras nun la demando. Ciu pli noble estas alporti ciuen batoi, ciuen sagojn de la colora sorto? Au sin armi kontraŭ la tuta maro da miseroj?
So if you should ever lie awake, don't begin to fear. There's no need to wallow in dismay. The solution's clear.
To regain your slumber, call this toll-free number
And make a mental list of all the mental lists you've ever made, of all the songs you've ever heard and games you've ever played. Just act out all your favorite movie lines by Meryl Streep, and by the time it's 5 a.m., why, you'll be fast asleep.
Dennis loved to hear a story told well. You see, I had a farm in Africa at the foot of the Ngong Hills. But it really began before that. It really began in Denmark. And there, I knew 2 brothers. Oh.